So far, I have covered 5 organ systems. The next 2 lectures will cover 3 more. Let's begin with the respiratory system. We breathe because our cells go through a process known as cellular respiration, where oxygen is necessary to convert sugar into usable energy. Organisms obtain oxygen in a variety of ways. Aquatic animals must separate dissolved oxygen from water rather than separating gaseous oxygen from nitrogen and other gases. For unicellular organisms and very small animals like flatworms, a respiratory system is unnecessary. Most of the cells make contact with their environment, and so oxygen can simply diffuse into each cell, and will do so automatically when oxygen levels are low due simply to the concentration gradient. Larger animals like sponges and cnidarians have an improved system where flagella whip around to create a current, supplying the body with fresh oxygen. This ensures that the environment has a high amount of oxygen at all times, and will continuously diffuse into their bodies. Fish and amphibians also obtain their oxygen by diffusion. Their blood vessels congregate under their skin so that the circulatory system can spread the oxygen to the rest of their bodies. This is called cutaneous respiration, since they are breathing through their skin. These animals may also have wrinkles, folds, and flaps of skin to increase their surface area. Many larger aquatic animals, including larval amphibians, fishes, and insects, have gills. The gills are thin branching appendages that create a large surface area to connect with the environment that are filled with blood vessels, making them bright red. If the gills are injured, the animal could quickly bleed to death. So in fish, they are protected by a bony gill cover called the operculum. To get oxygen, fish swallow water through their mouth and pump it over their gills. The gill covers close, the mouth opens, and the walls of the mouth move inward to suck water in. Then the mouth closes and the gill covers open, forcing water over the gills. The gills themselves are made up of thin filaments filled with blood. The high concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood causes these molecules to leave the body and go into the water, while the low concentration of oxygen causes it to enter the blood through the gills. Terrestrial insects breathe through openings on the side of their body called spiracles. Air is sucked into branching tubes called trachea that lead to tissue that needs oxygen. Lastly, terrestrial vertebrates have large organs called lungs. We suck in air by moving a large muscle beneath our lungs called the diaphragm. Air enters through the mouth and nose, goes down a long tube called the trachea, then is separated from the esophagus by a flap of skin called the epiglottis. When you choke, it is because food accidentally got past the epiglottis and ended up in your trachea. The trachea splits and enters the lungs, branching into bronchi and then bronchioles. Finally, at the end of these thin tubes are bunches of balloons called alveoli that are surrounded by capillaries. This is where oxygen is pulled out from all the other gases in the air and carbon dioxide in the blood is released. It all happens because of diffusion, combined with a molecule in the blood called hemoglobin, which is attracted to both carbon dioxide and oxygen. Hemoglobin is a respiratory pigment because when it is attached to oxygen, it changes from a purplish color to bright red. And this is because the atoms that are grabbing the oxygen are iron, and iron turns red when oxygenated. Think of rust or Mars. Hemoglobin is the most common pigment in vertebrate blood, but other animals use different pigments. For example, most insects use hemocyanin, which is clear but turns light blue when oxygenated. Some annelid worms even have green blood. We also use a different pigment in our muscles called myoglobin, which turns brown when oxygenated. This is why ground beef turns brown if left out of the plastic wrapping. Ham is injected with preservatives to retain its color, but these preservatives are carcinogens, so the ham looks more appealing but is actually more harmful to your health. And yes, it is legal to sell ham with carcinogenic nitrates as long as the levels are low. Other gases have high affinity for hemoglobin and can cause serious problems for someone in a room with them. You have probably heard of carbon monoxide poisoning. This occurs when someone inhales large amounts of the gas and it grabs onto hemoglobin, preventing it from transporting oxygen. There was a story a few years ago of a man who kept the car running with his wife and child inside while he shoveled snow off their car. The muffler was plugged with snow, causing carbon monoxide to flow into the car, and when he opened the car, he found his family had died. Car exhaust, tobacco smoke, forest fires, and burnt coal are all sources of carbon monoxide. Nitrous oxide can cause similar problems, but is less common, and cyanide, a common poison, works the same way, preventing your body from obtaining oxygen. An unusual and related phenomenon occurred in 1986 in a village in Cameroon. People arrived in the village to find everyone dead. Even the animals were dead, as if they fell over in the middle of what they were doing. Researchers believe what happened is that a nearby lake called Lake Nyos went through a process known as turnover. The lake is in the caldera of a volcano, and carbon dioxide was probably building up at the bottom of the lake for many years. A small earthquake caused the bubble at the bottom of the lake to burst. The lake turned over and the gas was released into the air, but carbon dioxide is dense, and so it flowed into the village. Everyone simply fell asleep, not realizing that they were not breathing in any oxygen. Almost 10% of children in Los Angeles have asthma. What is it, and how does one get it?
It starts with a cough or a wheeze. Soon, your chest feels tight. Your breathing speeds up and gets shallower, making you feel short of breath. These are common symptoms of an asthma attack. Around the world, more than 300 million people suffer from asthma, and around 250,000 people die from it each year. But why do people get asthma, and how can this disease be deadly? Asthma affects the respiratory system, particularly the smaller airways, such as the bronchi and bronchioles. These airways have an inner lining called the mucosa that's surrounded by a layer of smooth muscle. In people with asthma, the airways are chronically inflamed, which can make them hyperresponsive to certain triggers. Some of the many asthma triggers include tobacco smoke, pollen, dust, fragrances, exercise, cold weather, stress, and even the common cold. When people with asthma are exposed to these triggers, an asthma attack or exacerbation can occur. But how exactly do such everyday factors lead to an asthma attack? If an asthmatic is exposed to a trigger, the smooth rings of muscle that circle the small airways in their lungs contract and become narrow. Simultaneously, the trigger worsens inflammation, causing the mucosal lining to become more swollen and secrete more mucus. Under normal conditions, the body uses this mucus to trap and clear particles, like pollen or dust. But during an asthma attack, it blocks the narrowed airways, making it even harder to breathe. These effects lead to the symptoms of asthma. Smooth muscle constriction results in the feeling of chest tightness. Excess mucus and increased inflammation can cause coughing, and the wheezing noise? That happens because as the airways constrict, air whistles as it passes through the narrowed space. These symptoms may make a person feel like they're running out of air. Yet counterintuitively, during an asthma attack, the inflammation can make it harder to exhale than inhale. Over time, this leads to an excess of air in the lungs, a phenomenon known as hyperinflation. The trapping of air inside the lungs forces the body to work harder to move air in and out of them. Over time, this can lead to reduced oxygen delivery to the body's organs and tissues. Sometimes, in untreated severe asthma attacks, the body can't keep up, which can lead to death from lack of oxygen. So how do we prevent these uncomfortable and potentially fatal attacks in people who have asthma? One way is to reduce the presence of triggers. Unfortunately, the world is an unpredictable place, and exposure to triggers can't always be controlled. This is where inhalers, the primary treatment for asthma, come in. These medications help asthmatics both control and prevent their asthma symptoms. Inhalers transport medication along the affected airways, using a liquid mist or fine powder to treat the problem at its source. They come in two forms. There are reliever medications, which treat symptoms immediately and contain beta agonists. Beta agonists relax constricted muscles, allowing the airways to widen so more air can travel into and out of the lungs. The other form of inhalers serve as preventive medications, which treat asthma symptoms over the long term and contain corticosteroids. Corticosteroids reduce airway sensitivity and inflammation, so asthma can be kept under control. They're also crucial in preventing long-term damage from chronic inflammation, which can cause scarring of the airways. Inhalers are known to be very effective and have helped many people live better lives. Although we've come a long way in improving how we treat and diagnose asthma, we still don't know its exact causes. We currently believe that a combination of genetic and environmental factors play a role, potentially acting during early childhood. Recent research has even linked poverty to asthma incidence. This may be due to reasons ranging from exposure to additional pollutants and environmental irritants to difficulties in obtaining medical care or treatment. As our understanding of asthma improves, we can continue to find better ways to keep people's airways happy and healthy.
The graph here shows an unexpected trend. Due to laws meant to reduce pollution, 4 major causes of asthma have decreased over time. Yet, asthma rates have increased. Some suggestions for why include climate change, improved hygiene, and less exercise. Pick one of these hypotheses and explain how they would cause an increase in asthma.